You know, with every good movie, there's at least 3 bad movies. So let's keep that in mind because with the good, you also have to have the bad. With that said and done, hi. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. So today I thought that I would talk about the top 10 worst movies that I saw for the channel specifically. So this is not going to be including theatrical releases that came out in the year of 2023. This is just including the movies I watched for the first time for the channel, and that got a pretty low score. So I like to score my movies out of 10. So all of these movies got at least 5 below. There are a couple in here that got a 6 out of 10, and I don't particularly think that a 6 out of 10 is bad. So the couple of movies that are on here that got a 6 out of 10 for me are just like the bottom of the barrel that is 6 out of 10 movies, because I gave a lot of movies 6 out of 10. Honestly, and 6 out of 10, like I said, is not that bad. So most of those movies will be closer to the end of the list. So number 10 is gonna be the best worst movie of the year, and then number 1 is gonna be just the worst movie that I watched. So my opinion in this is all subjective. It's just my opinion, and no tea, no shade, no hate if you like these movies that I'm going to be talking about. Before we get into all of that, if you want to watch any of my reactions to these movies, then I highly encourage you to check out the channel, and if you want to watch the full length reaction to them, then checking out the Patreon is the way to do so. Link for that will be in the description below. Okay, coming in at number 10, the best worst movie that I watched this year is Jack Frost from 1997. Now, I just recently watched this for the channel for Christmas time, and this movie is so badly edited, and the writing is so kooky. The camera work, the setting, the logistics, everything about this movie is objectively bad. However, this movie is so entertaining and so goofy and kooky that I love it. I gave this one a 6 out of 10 because I have to be honest with myself, it is a bad movie, but I just had so much fun watching this that it's one of my favorite movies now. I just recently showed it to my sister and all of her friends, and it was just a lot of fun, honestly. There were so many questions, and I discovered so many more kooky things watching this movie for a second time. And if you don't know me, I just do not rewatch movies. I watch a movie once and I decide if I like it then or not. And the fact that I even rewatched this movie at all is surprising to me. So number 10, it's terribly executed. It's so bad, but I love it. And this came out before the iconic Jack Frost with Michael Keaton, I believe, which they have the same exact premise, just one's a horror and one is a comedy. So take with that as you will. Okay, coming in at number 9, we have A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child from 1989. Now, I actually gave this movie a 7 out of 10, so pretty high on my list. It's just, like, these movies get more and more complicated the further along we go down. You know, I'm in part 5 of the Nightmare on Elm Street storyline. I'm in part 6, I think, of the Friday the 13th series. And, you know, with A Nightmare on Elm Street, I feel like they get more and more complicated because they keep adding more lore and more things that you need to remember, basically. So this one is all about whatever her name is, and she has a baby, and the baby is dreaming of Freddy. It's so weird. Please watch my reaction to this because it is so kooky, but it's kind of the same thing with Jack Frost. Like, objectively, I know it's not that good of a movie. It's not terrible. It's just not my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street. However, that's the only reason why it's on my worst top 10 list, because pickings were pretty slim, honestly. I didn't rate a lot of movies very badly this year. I actually liked a majority of the movies that I watched this year. However, with this one, I think that I just was getting a little tired of how complicated it kept getting because they kept adding more gore. And I love and appreciate the makeup design and the set design, especially for this one. It's actually pretty good with the church scene and the dream sequences. So that's always something I love and appreciate about Nightmare on Elm Street is their practical effects. You gotta love the 80s for that. So this movie isn't bad. I had to fill the spot with something. But to be quite frankly, like I said, I just am getting a little tired of how complicated it's getting, honestly. We're adding so many different elements of what Freddy can do, how he can survive, and who's capable of dreaming him up and how we can kill him. It's getting there. You know, we added his mom into the mix. There's a lot to keep up with, and that's something that I kind of like to steer away from. All right, coming in at number 8, we have The Witch from 2015. Now, again, this movie it's kind of the opposite of the previous ones I mentioned. So objectively, it's a good movie. However, it just wasn't for me. It just truly wasn't. I thought this movie was so boring. And that's just me. I love jam-packed action, back, bam, bam, bam. There's always something going on. That's just me. Maybe that's my attention span. That's just my preferability and what I seek for in movies. I know this movie is very popular and very loved, so this opinion might be very unpopular. So take all of this with a grain of salt, but I just thought this movie was a little boring, and it was kind of hard to do it for a reaction because there was not much to commentate on at all. This movie is on this list solely because I just thought it was boring. It was so long and not much ever really happens, and we don't see anything ever really scary because I'm someone that needs to visually see something scary to be kind of scared. Except for Blair Witch Project. I didn't need that. No hate to this movie, no hate to anyone that loves this movie. I totally understand it. It is visually a very beautiful movie. It's just not for me. And that's all I have to say about that. I originally wanted to give this movie a very high rating, like an 8 or a 9. But then I was like, you know what? I'm not afraid to say that I don't like this movie. And it's not because I don't like it because of the story or anything like that. It was just pretty boring to me. I just thought it wasn't executed the way that I hoped it would be. That's all I'll say on that. Okay, coming in at number 7, we have Child's Play from 2019. So this is the remake of the 1980 Child's Play that we all know and love. I am a Chucky stan and supporter on this channel. However, I don't know what the fuck this movie was. It was so weird. They changed the name of the good guy doll to a buddy. They tried to make it more like high-techy, and he's a robot basically. And it wasn't even that he was possessed by a killer or whatever. It was literally just that he had bad programming because he was like a robot doll. So the storyline was very different. They try to like amp it up to, I guess, current times, I guess. Visually, this movie was pretty good because I liked how saturated it was, especially in comparison to the 1981 where it's so dull, but you know, that just shows like the time difference in those films. So that's not something to write home about. That's not something that makes it better than the original because the original was still so good because it was funny. Like this one was kind of, it wasn't the humor that I find humorous, to be completely honest. And the child actors I thought were pretty good. I feel like the writing was just a little kooky, if I'm being completely honest. It was kind of random and things just happened randomly, and it's like no one wanted to think logically and make it so that the characters think logically when crazy shit's happening to them or when a killer doll is coming for them. So I just don't know why this movie had to get made at all, and it's kind of disappointing because it has Aubrey Plaza in it, who I love and adore, but this movie is just not, it's just not it. I just don't know why this had to be made at all, so it had to be bottom of my list. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Child's Play, but why? They changed the name and everything about it. All right, number 6, we have The Hangover from 2009. Now, this is one of my first and I think only solely comedy movies that I have on this channel for my reaction, and there's a reason for that. Purely comedy movies, I just don't gravitate towards. I tend not to like them, and that's just me. This movie was just not for me, and that's okay. And it was also a little outdated as well. This movie came out in 2009. It is 2024 now, so 14 years later, 15 years later. It's just not catered to me. me. And that's all that I'll have to say on that. I originally gave this a 4 out of 10. I'm surprised it's not like number 1 on my list, but at least there's a clear plot in this movie. There's just too many random kooky things that I was kind of like, I don't know about that. Just things that were a little outdated, but again, this movie is just not made for me, and that is okay. That's kind of the general consensus of a majority of the movies on this list. They're just not made for me, and that's okay. It's all very subjective, and it's for somebody because this movie is very popular, and I will admit it is one of my more popular movie reactions on this channel, but yeah, I just don't think I'm gonna continue on with that series. No hate if you like that movie though. There were some things that were pretty funny about it, but it's just not my cup of tea. That's all. All right, at number 5, we have My Bloody Valentine from 2009. So this was actually the first movie reaction that I did for 2023. And let me tell you, this one was so odd. I think the editing was so odd. The original My Bloody Valentine I also watched on this channel, and I liked that one. That one was really creepy. This one I liked because there was a bit of a twist, which is appreciated. However, I just don't think this movie makes sense. I had so many questions during and after the movie because I feel like there's so many plot holes that I just could not justify not putting it on this list. Originally, I gave it a 6 out of 10. And like I said, I personally don't think a 6 out of 10 is bad. Let's just say the 6 is a scale. There is worse 6 out of 10s and there are better 6 out of 10s. This one kind of falls to the worst side of the 6 out of 10 rating. And I just think that there are so many questions. I try to look it up later if I have to do all that to figure out what's going on, because for this, it shouldn't be that complicated. It's just like a normal horror movie. It's a remake also, so it shouldn't be that complicated for me to try to figure out, you know, what was going on, but there was just so many unanswered questions, and that's something that really pisses me off in movies is unanswered questions. Not cliffhangers. I don't mind cliffhangers. It's, okay, the movie's wrapped up, completed, we're just doing the one movie, and they just don't answer anything. They talk about things and don't bring it up later. They don't explain. I don't want to give away the twist, but just watch my reaction if you want to know specifically the twist or the questions that I have, because I just don't want to give any spoilers in this video particularly. But if you're okay with that, then I encourage you to check out the reaction. Okay, coming in at number 4, we have Black Christmas from 2006. Now, this is also something I just watched for the channel in the month of December for Christmas time, and I watched the original Black Christmas from the 70s, and I loved it. I thought that it was so creepy, and I just love Christmas horror movies. I think it's such a great combination because I love bright colors and aesthetically pleasing shots in movies. So when you combine all the bright lights and joy that is surrounded Christmas and you paint it with like something really dark, I don't know, I really like it. So the original one I was a huge fan of, so I thought I would watch this remake, especially seeing the cast list. I was like, there's no way I'm not watching this. However, they made this one not like more, like they made this movie more creepy, but not in the way that I want them to. It was kind of weird coded, I guess I should say. There was like an underbelly of this all that I just did not really like. Now, the original kind of did leave me with more questions, so this one I appreciate that they try to explain the origins of this killer and all that, but I just thought that the story that they gave the killer was just creepy and not in a good way that I want to be creeped out by. Let's just say that without spoiling anything. It was just too creepy and gross to me, and I don't think I'll rewatch this. I truly don't. Even though I love the actresses and I loved how it was shot, I do like the 2006 vibe, the early 2000s, but I don't think I'll be rewatching this considering the weird story that they gave the killer. I don't like it. I just don't. I really don't. I think there's one more remake that they did, like 2019. We'll see if I watch that one next year. We might have to, just to finally conclude out. It almost almost seems like we kind of have to, you know what I mean? So look forward to that next Christmas. Okay, so we're getting into our top 3. So these are the more bad, like actually bad movies that I watched this year. So these are like the cream of the crop. This is actually like the bottom of the barrel. I would never rewatch this movie, except for maybe number 3. But I would never rewatch these movies. I would never encourage anyone else to watch these movies. These are actually movies that I just truly do not care for. I'm glad I have a reaction for them, but you don't want to be number 1, 2, or 3 on this list. You don't want to be winning this race, is how I'll put it. So coming in at number 3, we have Leprechauns from 1993. Okay, so this movie, again, is something I had to put on because objectively, it is a bad movie. It is kooky, and the writing is kind of weird, and how they try to justify people making the decisions that they make is kind of weird. The leprechaun is kind of weird. All of it weird. It is a weird movie. However, it is fun. And there are some things that were kind of boring about it, I will say, but there were so many parts that were so much fun. And of course, we have our icon Jennifer Aniston in it. I think this is literally like her first movie ever, and it's just so much fun to watch Jennifer Aniston in like a horror movie. I think it was focusing more on being crazy. It is so 90s coded. It's almost like they knew that they were a bad movie and they just wanted to embrace it. Like they were shooting it and they're like, fuck, this movie is so bad. Let's just go balls to the wall. It's like they kind of gave up and they just wanted to make a bad movie. So maybe I would rewatch this. I know there's more in this series. We'll see about that. If it gets better, let me know. But I highly doubt that. I don't know if I believe it. It's fun when it's fun, if that makes sense. When it's boring, oh my gosh, it's like, do we have to explain all this, or just long ass scenes? It's just, it doesn't have to be the way that it is. It's just not good. It's not good. All right, coming in at number 2, we have The Fun House from 1981. So this was something that was actually voted on by my patrons on Patreon, and I was excited. It was summer. I wanted kind of summer-esque type of movies, and I love carnivals and clowns and like that type of creepiness in like the horror genre. So I was honestly pumped for this movie, but then I watched it and this movie is so bad. Now, I don't know why my patrons, I think this is kind of a classic movie. I don't know in what sense, but it is because my patrons voted on it and it won in a poll. So that's why I ended up watching it. But this movie, it's like there wasn't even a plot. There was not even a plot. It was called The Fun House, and sure, it takes place in a fun house, but there wasn't even a plot. They had a whole main character of a kid who said nothing throughout the whole thing, throughout the entirety of the movie, which is kind of ridiculous to me. I don't know why they did that or why they ended up even like casting him if they didn't want him to say anything at all. Truthfully, this movie is the epitome of no plot, all vibes, and I don't like movies like that. I need a plot, and that's how I am with every piece of media in my life, with books, with movies, TV shows, anything. I need a plot. I can't just have the vibes of them being at this carnival. And that would be fine if the vibes of the carnival were good, but they weren't. It was so, this was the weirdest carnival. One scene of just like watching people, watching naked old ladies. It was so weird. And there was like a monster in there. They never explained the monster. And this kooky thing happens. Okay, next scene. It's like, okay, so is that important? Are we gonna have to remember that later? None of that. Nothing that happened in this movie was important or relevant to the plot at all. Everything could just be taken as its own. You could start watching the movie right in the middle and not miss a single beat because nothing goes on in this movie. Nothing happens. No plot, just vibe movies are not my cup of tea, but I would be okay with it if it just wasn't boring. And that's what sucks. If it was interesting, kooky things that were happening at this carnival, I'd probably be for it. But it was just boring, and that's what sucks about it, because I wanted to like this movie and it was just such a slog to get through. I was like, when is this movie gonna end? And it was a short movie too, and I was still like, oh my gosh, when is this going to end? and that's not something you want to experience. Okay, so coming in at number 1, my worst rated movie, in my opinion, which not even the worst score out of 10, but just when I was looking through, I was like, this one is number 1 to me. No questions about it. My number 1 worst movie is Cabin in the Woods from 2011. Now, this was kind of a rewatch for me because I saw this movie and the ending was so weird that I didn't think that I watched this movie. I thought that I watched 2 different movies. That's how it was skewed in my mind. So when I went to go rewatch it, because I was like, I think I've seen it, I'm not too sure, because I had it mixed up thinking that I watched another movie, because the ending of this movie makes no freaking sense. And you can argue with me about this. Listen, I don't care if you like this movie or not. I don't care if this is your favorite movie. This is just my opinion, all right? You can love this movie or you can hate this movie. Makes no difference to me. This movie made no sense at all. And I think that the concept was really cool, but it's like they almost didn't know how to put it together in the end. There was so much left to be desired of this movie because, like I said, I love the concept of it. It was almost like a choose your own adventure type of movie. So if this was like a choose your own adventure type of thing, that would be awesome. Like how Bandersnatch was on Netflix, where you actually got to use your remote and click it. That would be such a cool thing that they did for Cabin in the Woods. Just a normal horror movie and you get to pick what happens and like choose. I know there's video games like that, but that's kind of the vibes that this movie gave me. So that seems cool, right? The whole concept is kind of like you choose your own adventure. I was explaining this movie to my husband and like I swear his eyeballs were like going back to his head. They're going left, right, up and down. He was so like, this makes no sense at all. And when I say it makes no sense, I've looked up this movie. I've read all the articles that I possibly could about this movie. I've read the lore, everything. I know what the ending means. When I say it makes no sense, I mean that as it's stupid. I don't understand why they had to make it like that. They explained it so weird and it makes me sad because Sigourney Weaver is in this movie. Just for a second. But they have some pretty big names in this movie. That doesn't mean that it's a good movie, I guess I'll say. This movie is my number 1 for me because it's so much potential and it seemed like it would be so cool. It was almost like Hunger Game-esque. There's a little bubble that they're in and people seeing what they do, but they had to add a whole other aspect of it. Like if it was just like the Hunger Game-esque part of it where you're in your own little arena basically and you have to survive. If that was all of the movie was, that'd be cool. And it was like you basically have to survive and it's like a horror movie. Whatever decision you make, butterfly effect, that's the villain that you're gonna get. I thought that was so cool. And I feel like I'm kind of giving spoilers. Major spoilers if you haven't seen this movie, but I feel like most of you guys have seen this movie. So I'm just gonna keep going. If you don't want to see any spoilers, then you can click off right now. But I thought that was pretty cool. But I don't like how they added the part of, oh, but also we have the little arena basically because we need all these people to die for a sacrifice. Huh? What? Why? I mean, sure, they had to find a reason as to like why there is the arena. This is kind of like dystopian, I guess. Why they have to have this arena of like these campers or these high school friends getting together, being in this cabin in the woods. I feel like there's so many other ways they could have explained it though. And it is truly the epitome of a sci-fi channel original movie because the ending, the CGI for all the animals and the creatures in the ending, what? It was so weird. But in the middle of the movie where they had the practical effects and the actual makeup and everything of the zombies or whatever that were trying to get the main cast looked so scary and cool. I was like, this is so scary. I'm telling you, it is just the ending that really grinds my gears. It's the ending that really pisses me off because there was so much potential, so much of this movie I could have liked. It could have been a new favorite, but the ending is just a no-go for me. I don't like it. But again, I must emphasize, that is just me. I know a lot of people really love this movie. Good for you. I'm happy for you. Okay, that was a doozy. That was quite a ride that we just got on with each other. So let me know if you guys have any movie suggestions. Please not bad ones. I know this video is worst movies, so you might feel compelled to give me bad movie recommendations. Please don't. Just give me good movie recommendations. I was kind of surprised that this year, no movie got very low. I think the lowest ones were probably Cabin in the Woods, Hangover, and Funhouse, and they all got 4 or a 5 out of 10. So nothing got below a 4, because if something gets below a 4 out of 10, it's like, ooh, yikes. I really didn't like this movie, but nothing did. So I'm hoping for a good movie viewing year in 2024. Are there any movies coming out next year that you're excited for, or that should be on my radar? Because I want to kind of accumulate what movies I'm excited for next year, or just any news like that in general, horror news, video games, anything like that. I really want to know, so I can accumulate my list and see what I'm most excited for and put it in my calendar. So with that said and done, I want to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons, and especially Gave Up, AJ, Mark Sylvester, James Cox, and Dontrell Durant. Thank you so much, and make sure to go ahead and check out my Patreon if you haven't already. Okay, so full-length reaction to all the movies that I talked about, all of that will be linked in the description below. Check that out, see what's in store for you there. Thank you guys for coming along with me on this journey, not even just this video, but if you've been on my channel at all, I appreciate you. If you've seen me react to any of these movies, let me know. I'm really curious what movie reaction brought you to my channel, so let me know that as well, because I'm just curious. I'm curious, you know? Thank you for a great 2023 movie reacting year and coming along with me on this channel. I'm excited for 2024 and to see what that has in store for us. So thank you once again. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of that jazz. And as always, thanks for watching. Thank you.